kick things off, as I said, Happy New Year to everybody. If we just start to kick things off with apologies for our absence. I've had apologies from Tim Bull, who's got another meeting on today. Steve, have you had any other apologies?
Yeah, just to remind councillors that local government, the apologies for the main council meetings are always to the clerk. I've had apologies from Gareth.
Okay. Just Gareth, is it? Okay. So if we move on to item 2, declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest? Remembering we're doing the budget today? No. So if we go on, here we go. We got Beth coming from Nub News as an observer.
Hello.
Welcome, Beth. We're just going on to item 3, minutes of the monthly meeting held on the 8th of December 2020. We've all had a chance to look at the minutes. Any observations, anything that anybody wants to bring up? If not, can I put forward that somebody forwards them and seconds them? Richard and...
Yeah, second those, Chair.
Yeah, okay, second chair that. And there's Adam, come in.
Hello, Adam.
There you go. Let's see you, Adam. So if we move on to item 4, the clerk's report.
Okay, Chair, there's just 2 things to let you know about. Firstly, the new guidance from the government is that by-elections are now being put back till April. So you're going to be 16 rather than 18 strong for another few months, I'm afraid. Secondly, hot off the press is the papers for the cabinet meeting on the 21st have literally just come out. And the good news from that is the recommendation from the officers is that Cabinet approves the proposed disposal of the land to Mumbles Community Council for the skate park. So that's a nice...
Fantastic.
Hey.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
Hurrah.
Excellent.
So that's for me for now, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And well, to be honest, that leads very nicely into really what is the main chunk of my chair's report as well. So, as per usual, I'll read my report. Happy New Year 2021 to all councillors, and I hope you had a happy and safe festive season. Unfortunately, as we all know, there are particularly trying times, and we are all encountering and living with the impact of the second wave of the COVID-19 virus. With this in mind, I think it is a good opportunity for us as a council to express our appreciation to all our volunteers and our operations team for the fantastic support they have supported to the community at this incredibly trying time. One of the main focus of activity over the past few weeks has been focusing on our up-and-coming budget. On the 15th of December, we held a full council budget scrutiny meeting, which enabled all councillors to explore and ask questions in relation to planned expenditure for the coming year. Personally, I felt that meeting was very useful, and hopefully it can help and inform the decision and discussions we were going to have this evening. I am very pleased to report that one of the most exciting items this month has been the following: a special City and County of Swansea Cabinet meeting, which was brought forward to the 6th, I think, of January. And again, where the recommendation was that that the lease of Underhill Park be handed over to Mumbles Community Council on a 125-year lease.
Brilliant.
And this was passed unanimously by the council. So this, to be honest, this is fantastic news, I think, because this will really assist us with the plans we have with the park, for the park with Mumbles Community Association to improve this facility. In order to promote the news, we produced a short video that was posted on Facebook and elsewhere on social media, and the news received coverage in Wales, online and Nub News, we're here this evening, and elsewhere. And I really think that this is a major step forward in realising our plans that have been a very long time in development. Together with the funds that we have secured from the lottery with MCA and our pending application to the Welsh Government for a significant loan, this offers tremendous potential to actually making a difference to the sporting facilities on offer in Mumbles, and is starting to bring to fruition a lot of efforts of many people in the community. We should welcome this decision by Swansea City Council, that it opens the way after many years to taking the project forward, and it represents a good example of city and county councils and community councils working together on a common purpose. I know that many members of this community council are motivated by driving forward real change in our community, and now through this initiative we have a chance of really seeing some progress. So that's my report for the month. So as I should have said, good news on all fronts. It's good news for the skate park and it's good news for Underhill Park. So upwards and onwards. So item 6, financial report. Over to you, Paul.
Thanks, Chair. Just quickly, because obviously there's a lot to get through the budget.
Yeah.
The list of all payments that have been made are in the first section of the report, and copies of all the invoices have been saved to the OneDrive folder for tonight's meeting. So if anybody wants to look at them, so I'm asking for retrospective approval for those payments, as well as the payments made via the Barclaycard. So the Barclaycard December statement is also listed on page 2 of the report.
Okay.
Income-wise, we've had the final precept instalment that came through at the end of December, and also the first instalment of the National Lottery Smugs grant. So everything is in place now for that grant to move forward, that project to move forward. Our bank balances have obviously increased significantly because of the third instalment. So as at the start of January, it was just over 800,000. And I've also listed in the final table in the report the budget monitoring position for each cost centre of the council over the up to the end of December. Currently shows an £800,000 underspend, but to be expected, obviously because of the big schemes like Underhill and Skate Park are still waiting for their final go-ahead. And just the final thing I would say is that the contingency item shown in the budget list is 79,000, but there are some virements from that which are outstanding, which I will include in my report next month for approval. Just one example is obviously the festoon lighting at along Mumbles Road. That we've had the invoice for that now, so that will be due for payment, and we'll need to via from the contingency fund to meet that cost. That's the financial report, Chair. There's any questions?
Okay, any questions from anybody in relation to that financial report? No. Okay then, great. If we move on to item 7, 6-week internship, our marketing and editorial events planner has obtained a £2,000 grant for a 6-week internship provided by Swansea University for a marketing communication student to collate and upload data for all local shops, businesses, to showcase all of the local Mumbles traders. This information will help us not only with our communication to local traders, marketing and events, but will also help us to improve the social media and Mumbles tourism promotion. So who's talking to that? Is it Rob or Steve?
Well, it's self-explanatory, Mark, to be honest. You know, we've got this money. We want to get a database of the whole of Mumbles for businesses, for our tourism and for our Chamber of Trade. And well done on Claire for securing it.
Okay. Pam?
Is it just Mumbles? It's not anywhere else? Like West Cross shops or Newton shops?
It's Mumbles area. We have four.
Area.
The Mumbles Community Council area. Would have thought.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Carrie?
You're on mute. You're on mute.
You're on mute, Carrie.
Yeah, I'm slightly curious as to how this came about because, as far as I'm aware, marketing comes under the remit of JEC, and obviously that ultimately oversees, you know, the marketing work that Claire does. So I'm not quite sure why this hadn't been discussed at JEC. I mean, you know, as far as I know, nobody seemed to know anything about it until it popped up.
Quite frankly, because tourism and the Chamber of Trade come under culture.
Since when has the Chamber of Trade come under culture?
It's an offset of
Is
the
it
culture.
not an economic?
No, it's
No.
culture.
No.
Anyway, yeah, we discussed this at environmental yesterday, because obviously the original plan for this internship was to support the development of the e-cargo bike project. And that's, I did the initial research on that, which I forwarded to Steve, and that's obviously what was used then to actually secure this particular grant. There were a few questions I had, one of which I have been reassured is that we are allowed, in fact, to apply for 2 internships in any 1 year. So we haven't lost that opportunity, which otherwise I would have been concerned about. But what we did discuss is, of course, part of the work that we want to do to develop the cargo bike project is to actually have a whole, exactly the same information, basically, a whole database about all the businesses, what use they might make of the cargo bikes. So what I'm suggesting is that actually this post is a joint post, and that when they are out meeting with or speaking with businesses, that at the same time they also do the questionnaire regarding the potential for the e-cargo bike proposal. That way then they won't have their time wasted by us going back and asking them a whole separate set of questions at a later date.
Okay, Sarah.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I was going to bring up the point that Carrie did. It was better to have just one person doing this so we don't fall between, but also blinking heck, has culture in 1 year been reduced to shopping?
Seems like it.
Just point.
Bill.
Mr. Chair, yeah, I think the point Carrie's trying to make is that while we are engaging with the local traders, we want to ask them as many questions at once, really, rather than going back to them again, because obviously it's quite resource heavy. So I'm all for this. I think it's a great idea. The data needs to be stored in a friendly, just on Microsoft Excel's fine, but we just need to make sure that it's not just put into like a WordPress platform, you know, straight onto the website where we can't get it off. So that needs to be thought about. But basically, I think all we need to do is circulate the questionnaire amongst all the other councillors, and if there's any other questions that we think might future-proof the data, that we can feed them in, and I think that's adequate. So all for it. Good idea. Carry on. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot. Anybody else? So
Can I just say something?
Okay.
Just for information, this is Councillor Townsend Jones alluded it's something to do with me. It hasn't been. It's hugely to her credit. Claire sees this initiative herself, and I think she's to be applauded. She's you know, the cost of the internship is nothing to the council. It's going to be able to use that money to build a very useful database. It's not only useful to one committee, but all the committees. I spoke to Claire today because I attended the environmental committee last night, and she's quite happy to include some questions on the
e-bike
proposal of the e-cargo bike. So as I say, that's how it came out, as a result of an initiative taken by one of your staff, which I think you should applaud.
Okay, thanks a lot. Anybody else? So
Thank you.
Okay, Okay, that's great. Thank you. Carrie, quickly.
Yeah, just one last thing. Well, two last things. First of all, can we please make sure that this is something that is actually shared right across the council, so that we all have full access to this, and that, you know, what the work that's being done is reported onto council, rather than it just disappearing into some committee minutes somewhere. Because I think this is something, it should be benefit to all the council, and therefore I think all the council should be involved in it. And secondly, could I suggest that I think if we're interviewing people to take on what is basically a short-term post, that councillors should actually be involved in that process. It shouldn't just be left to a member of staff to do it.
Yeah, surely we've got Stan.
Can I just sort of sorry to butt in, but I mean, quite happy for that to happen, but I'm quite surprised that Councillor Townsend-Jones mentioned this. It's a 6-week internship by you. It's something that it's quite capable for, as a recommendation for 2 of your officers, Claire and Paul, to interview. I mean, no one's got any problems if a councillor really wants to do it, but there's an awful lot of other things that need doing, and I'd have thought that was something that you could delegate to your officers to do.
Okay, what can I do? Sarah, just quickly, please.
Yeah, just quickly, we're elected officers. We should be doing our job. That's how I feel. I know it's a pain in the butt, but we've got to do the work.
Okay, well, okay. The recommendation is that we accept the MEP and RFO the MEP and RFO interview and appoint assistants. But we need to put an amendment on that if any councillor wants to take part, or can that just be covered in this proposal, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, it needs amending, doesn't it?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It needs amendment, so, or if any councillor wants to take part. So, should we vote on the amendment on the first place? All those in favour of councillors being able to take part in this interview process? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So that's carried. So then, if we go on to the main recommendation, that we basically that we go forward with this. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried as well. Okay, so could we go on to item 8, recommendations made by the Community and Social Wellbeing Committee. Mumbles Community Association request for payment of legal fees. MCA have asked that MCA meet the additional costs arising out of the new lease agreement and of the formal loan agreement. So the committee recommend that MCA legal fees of £3,250 be plus VAT be paid. Anybody got any comments on that? Shall we start with Carrie?
Yeah, just a clarification. It actually says that the legal fees are also for us to pay for advising MCA on grant. I don't know, something to do with grants. It's written onto the letter that's in the in
the shared drive. In the shared drive.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure why we should be paying for them to receive advice, which probably they could have got for free from a lot of sources in Swansea.
I'm a bit confused on that because, as I understand it, Rebecca, do you want to clarify that?
Well, I raised this exact question somewhere. I raised it anyway. The answer is it's to do with the grant applications, specifically what the implications are for it being a lease and lease back, if that's the right terminology. So it's only related to the grant applications and the implications of the leasing arrangement. It's not general advice on grant applications.
This is all to do with the thing about changing the lease agreement. Pam, And
When
then,
we discussed it, I made a point of asking if there's new money on top of the 1.2
yes.
million, and you said yes. Is this it now, or is there going to be something else that they want another 250,000 for, and another 250,000?
No.
Is it?
We brought this up when it was discussed in the first instance. This is just a case because we've asked for the loan for the. We've asked for.
I understand, Martin. You
Yeah.
explained that really well. That's perfectly all right. But is there going to be another 250,000, 350,000 down the line?
Well, that we, you know, you ask me a question like that, it's like asking me what the next surprise is going to be, and I don't know. Is no, I think we've been quite clear on this. Is that we're trying to stick to that 1.2 million, and that this is something additional because it came to the lease application. But anything that comes in like that, we would have to address accordingly. But of course, I think we've made it quite clear to them that no, that isn't going to be the case. Can I bring Will in first, then Rebecca, then Carrie?
Thank you,
Yeah,
Martin.
Pam just alluded to it then, but just to make everyone aware, just if no one's people might not be aware of this, we actually asked to be the head lease, and that's why it's incurred some hours from solicitors. That's why we've been asked to pay for this. We were the ones who asked for it, so we were the ones who asked for the changes. So in my opinion, we should very much be paying for it. To ask for are there going to be any other surprises coming up? I mean, as Martin said, it's a very big project. We've set out a budget. There's contingency in that budget as well. So I don't see there being any other surprises. But for example, I think one of the things someone brought up a couple of months ago was, why aren't we putting solar panels on there? It might be that council suddenly decides, right, we should be putting solar panels on there because we've declared a climate emergency. Now, we have raised those questions, but it's just an example of how things are fluid and always changing and moving. So, let's hope that that's the final figure, but I don't think anyone can ever fully commit and guarantee that.
Okay, Rebecca, and then Carrie.
Yeah, I just wanted to reassure council that Martin, Will, and myself make the point very strongly every week when we meet with MCA that we've got already a very sizable budget, and that that was a big decision and a big risk, frankly, that was taken by this community council. So I think in terms of, are there going to be any surprises? If they are surprises that are instigated by MCA, I think we have very clearly sent the message that we hold the right really to just say no to those. But as Will says, because this is something that we instigated, and similarly the solar panels might be something that we request rather than is requested from MCA, then there may be other things. But always it is within our gift to say no, and every decision on additional finance will come back to full council.
Okay, Carrie.
Yeah, just a sort of minor detail, really. Now that we are obviously the main leaseholders, will there be additional legal costs now for the production of the sublease?
No,
Right,
because that is going to be done by the whole sort of thing is the changing round of the lease and stuff like that, and this is going to be done by city and county.
Okay.
Right,
and just secondly, to agree with Will that yes, we want to make sure this is going to be the most environmentally sustainable building when we're committing huge amounts of money to it. So I agree with Will. There may be requirements for us to invest in technologies that will ensure that it has a significantly long and energy efficient lifespan. So I'd be more than happy to support anything along those lines.
Okay then. So can I send that to the vote then? All in favour of the recommendation that these fees be paid? Okay, that's carried. Then the next one is be grant request from Castleacre allotments, grant request for £1,000 toward the cost of professional survey to guide our management of the neglected hedgerows and to create 2 new allotment plots. We also plan to install a compostable toilet and community shed for storage, and with the orchard project to create a fruit tree area for a local primary school to use and teaching and learning environment. Full application is in the documents folder. The recommendation is that the grant of £1,000 be made on the provision that surplus vegetables supplied to those in need, either through the local food banks or alternative. Or being what's in the news today, it might be in those packs for school meals. But anyway. Rebecca?
Yeah, just to draw councillors' attention to the fact that I think that there was there has been a precedent set now about this surplus vegetables thing, but this application is for a project that costs a total of £5,000, of which the allotment is asking for 1. So it meets our test of not being the majority grant provider.
Carrie?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to support this, but what I would like to suggest is that as we are going to be developing our community allotment with the Heritage Lottery funding, and that they agree that any individuals who want to move on from using the community allotment will be given consideration for starter allotments on their field, so that we get a little bit of support for that as well.
Okay, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, Rebecca's answered a little bit of it, saying that the entire project is £5,000 and what we're paying is a fifth into that. However, are the allotment committees going to be coming back and asking for more grants to make the rest of their plans happen? Because it seems that we have grant requests from the allotments every other month, really. So we can't, these are privately run allotments now, so surely the people have to look after them themselves.
Rebecca?
Yeah, a valid point, Rob, one that I've raised myself. So what I have done is I've just checked, it has been a different allotment every time that we've funded in the last financial year. So of the 6 that are in our patch, this is number 4. What I have suggested to Carrie as chair of environmental committee is that for the next financial year, we actually try and organise a bit of a round table with the allotment committees to understand, what projects have they got coming up, what funding are they likely to need, and what is, that will inform what's reasonable for us to plan for, because we would want to do it in a more equitable way, even if we do take the decision to keep supporting these community assets. We want to make sure that we're doing it equitably, that each of the allotments has a fair bite of the apple, etc. No pun intended.
Okay, Carrie?
Yeah, just to come back on that, if you cast your minds back, we did actually agree that part of the small grants project, a small grants fund, would be actually ring-fenced for the allotment societies. It was ring-fenced until September, so obviously, this has drifted, but there again, in the current climate, that's not really surprising. So in fact, it's perfectly reasonable for these allotment societies to be making these requests, because it was something that we actually agreed to in the beginning. And also, they're hardly privately owned. They actually belong to Swansea Council. They've been leased to the community groups, and they are just community organisations in exactly the same way as a dementia organisation, an old people's group, a nursery, a play group, all the other people that we fund. They're exactly the same. They're not privately owned.
Okay, Ian?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I have looked at this application for a grant, and I think it's certainly very worthwhile. It panders to the requirements of those that suffer mental health, etc., etc. The only reservation and concern I have is somewhat late in the day that, you know, these boundaries of the allotments, it ought to have been addressed by City Council before they dropped their shoulders and said they were no longer going to be responsible for them. I think it's important that we support the allotment tiers as much as we can. However, you know, it stretches into the domain of our grant policy. I think our grant policy is way confused. We have 3, if not 4 committees that are dealing with grants, and we need a proper policy on this, you know, a connected policy, you know, to move forward. I wouldn't say they're just allotment tiers that don't have ownership. I think the people that work within these allotments are the closest thing to being owners of it, because the one in question, Acre Field, is in remarkable condition, and it's a flagship, I think, for all the allotments. You look at some of the others, they look somewhat run down, but there seems to be a tendency to admire, shall we say, a dandelion field as opposed to something that's a little bit more floriferous. But I support the grant. Thank you.
Will, and then Sarah.
Yeah, just a comment from me, Chair. I mean, as Rob said, I mean, it does seem that there's a lot of grants coming through from allotments, but what I'd say to that is that they're not, I wouldn't say they're particularly huge money grants, and also the impact that the allotments have on the locality. I mean, it's obviously great for people's mental health, for hundreds of people enjoying healthy food. It's good fitness. You know, I think when we do this roundtable thing, which Rebecca spoke about, which I do remember Ian starting a few years ago, and I think he got sort of pushed off it, unfortunately, but it might be worth just touching base with Ian on that, because you did start something before Ian, didn't you? You know, whether we can encourage these allotment sites to get rid of their empty lots quicker, maybe a website that we can help them with, which is, you know, makes these empty lots available, and we can help them out with waiting lists, things like that, and maybe engagement with the schools and young people, because you know, I personally, I don't go to allotments often, but I don't see many young people in the allotments when I do pass. So maybe there's some things we can do to encourage and help the allotments. But yeah, I'm all in favour of this, and I think it's a good initiative.
Okay, Sarah.
This is very much in our ethos. As much as we support skate parks for kids, we should support allotments for older people. It's a good way of getting them healthy and staying healthy and growing good food. And it's good for the environment. Most of them are organic. It's a good space. It would be a shame to lose them. I think it's a good investment for us, and it's small amount of money. It's peanuts for different allotments as opposed to the amount we spend on other things.
Okay.
It's positive.
Okay, well, can I then suggest that we move it to a vote on that we approve a grant of £1,000 to be made for the provision of surplus on the provision of surplus vegetables be provided to the local food bank alternatives. All those in favour? Okay, I think that's carried. Right, if we go on to then number C, which is a grant request from Mumbles Rangers. A grant request for £6,000 towards dugouts and mini goalposts. Again, there's a full application in the additional documents folder. Again, the recommendation that this grant for £6,000 be made in the provision that MCC are given a prominent and permanent hoarding, showing our support. Anybody got anything to comment on that, Rebecca?
Yeah, so just a bit of additional information for councillors. You will remember that this has been in front of full council before, and it was pushed back to Community and Social Wellbeing Committee because we were confused about this grant application following a previous grant application that referenced dugouts and mini goalposts. There is obviously the explanation of that in the additional documents folder, and committee is satisfied that this does not contravene the information provided in our previous grant application. And also just wanted to really make the point that the prominent and permanent hoarding, that must be a technical term, I've not come across that before, you know, these matches are likely to be attended by bigger numbers of people than have been previously and from different parts of Wales. So we think there's a real opportunity here for us to increase our profile within the community. And so that will be not just a weak provision, a strong provision of this grant being awarded will be that we get the credit where it's due.
Okay, anybody else want to make any comments on that?
Yes.
Ian?
Yes, very quickly. Thank you, Chair. With regards to advertising Mumbles Community Council involvement in any project, I think it's a splendid idea. I would like some assurances, though, if we're going to be going down the road of a banner, well, they're going to have to be biodegradable. I would remind councillors that we have it hammered home that we're a plastic-free Mumbles. So let's hope the banners that we've been using in the past are all biodegradable and there are no plastics on them. Thank you.
Good point, Ian. Thank you very much for that. Phil?
Hi, everybody. Yes, I just think that with these, when we do give a grant, I think that it should be written into the into how we give grants, that we are recognised every time we do it. You know, as Ian correctly said, we need to be showing people what we do and shouting about it, really. So I think that perhaps it should be just a given that we do get recognition for it visually on whatever we do.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point as well, Pip. And I think if we're going to recommend this grant, I would suggest that we set up some sort of semi-formal meeting with Mumbles Rangers, because I think there are some chats to be had there in relation to ensuring that they give us full credit for the contributions that we have given to Mumbles Rangers over the years, to be honest. Paul?
Yeah, if I can just say, for every grant that's approved, I send an actual form to the body that's got the grant, and it has terms and conditions in it. One of the ones I tend to put in for all of them is that the contribution made by Mumbles Community Council is recognised. So this would be one of the ones that would go forward as part of the grant acceptance form, which goes to Mumbles Rangers, and they will then sign it then to accept that term and condition before we pay the money.
Okay, Stephen.
Yeah, just for information, just to underline it, this resolution was written because Mumbles Rangers have good ambition to go up in the Welsh League.
Yeah.
And actually what we're asking for is quite a sizable commitment from them. We're saying we want a permanent hoarding in a prominent place in perpetuity. So that could in future be very good advertising for us.
Champions League final, Steve.
Exactly. Thank you.
Held in Mumbles.
Okay, Carrie.
Yeah, just it's sort of slightly relevant but not relevant, is we did actually agree some months ago to actually buy plaques which would be put on anything that we provided for the community that was in a public place. And I don't know if Paul can update on whether we actually got those plaques, and if so, are they in a position now to someone to be able to go out and put them up?
Steve?
Yeah, so I dealt with that, Councillor Townsend.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, this is quite a big concern because they were ordered some time ago.
I thought they were, yeah.
And we had to give them the money before they would do the design, if you recall.
Yeah, that's
right. We got the design revised and placed the order, and I have been chasing, and I have spoken to someone several times who promised it's going to come. I checked, funny enough, with Paul this week to see whether it had come before Christmas, and they haven't. but I'm a little bit concerned that the firm may be a victim to COVID and, you know, perhaps not.
Dear.
So it's a cause of concern because they would have been ideal.
Yes.
And they might have been ideal, for example, for we didn't want to do vinyls on the bins. They would
on the bins,
they would have stuck
absolutely.
really well on the side. So it's very frustrating.
And also, you know, they could have been put up on the gate of every allotment society.
Yeah. So we're going to have to make a decision whether we pursue that, but I may have to report back next time that we need to reorder. And
Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
Pip.
Sorry, last thing, I just to answer Ian's point about the environmentally friendly banners. We can get hold of biodegradable ones. I think Rob might remember we discussed it with SA1 going back a while. I'll ask the question about it again, if that's okay. Find out what the the costs, etc. are.
Yeah, well, I think that's a good point that Ian made there, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay, are we all?
Sorry, can I just to clarify, the last few banners that we have bought have all been biodegradable.
Okay, yeah. But as I should have said, just something we need to think about. Okay, then. So can I move that to a vote then, please? That that we recommend that the grant of £6,000 be made for the version of MCC and given a prominent and permanent holding, showing our support. All those in favour? Okay, that's all passed as well. Okay, questions to the chairs of the committees. Anybody got any questions to the chairs of the committees? Right, if I start off with Pam.
Just something I brought up in a previous meeting. I don't know which committee it goes to, but there are children and families who can't access online learning from their schools because they don't have tablets or phones or enough for the family. And we asked if we could put something out on maybe our website, like just saying generally to people, look, if we took on the role of getting these wiped clean and redistributing them by the schools to needy families, would anybody have any spare devices that they would be able to offer, and just try to gauge how many there might be in the community. So if that could go on the website, I don't know to whom it goes, but to get us started, just to do a little bit of research on how we could do it. It started because I got a spare iPad and I thought, well, I could get it changed. I don't know who that goes to.
I'll bring Rebecca in, but I think there are already people doing this, but I think we need to do a bit of research. Rebecca?
Yeah, I was just going to suggest, can I take it to COVID Ops group, which meets on Tuesday next week? And the reason I'm hesitating is because I know since the new lockdown has started, there are now grants, etc., available for kids on free school meals in particular, I think, to access both internet and technology. So I just want to do a bit more research before we commit to anything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, there's various things going on. Carrie?
Yeah, this isn't a question. Well, it's a question to myself as chair of the Environmental Committee.
What
am I asking? As you know, we have this new project starting, and we have two groups which will be managing the project. We are looking at having a steering group, which will be sort of a high-level strategic group, which will meet probably 2 or 3 times. That's all throughout the life of the project. And then we will have an operational group who's actually dealing with the day-to-day work of the project, and that will meet monthly. And we are asking if there are councillors who would be interested in joining either the steering group or the operational group, because obviously we want to make sure we've got representation from the council as well as from our the various different interested parties who'll be working with us. So this is your opportunity to put your hand up and say you would like to be on either the steering group or the operational group.
You have to tell them what the projects are.
It's the Smugs project.
Yeah, I think what would be useful in relation to that is if we could circulate an email, and then people could have a little bit of time to reflect on it and what they could contribute, and then indicate to you and to the council that that they're interested in participating in that.
Yes, the meetings, the first meetings will be within the next week or so. So it would have to be a fairly rapid turnaround, because you know, the project is kind of, you know, up and running, and we've got to get these groups meeting first because we've got to get the work program finalized to make sure that we're complying with all the requirements of the grant. So yes, I'm happy to do that, but I would ask for answers fairly quickly, please.
Yes. So all councillors, if you can bear that in mind and keep it to the fore of your mind to respond to Carrie in the not too distant future. Okay. Anything else? If not, we'll move on to what I know you've all been looking forward to. Me included. The budget and precept for the year for 2020-2021 to agree a budget and set the precept for the financial year to 2022. Now, as you know, I've been phoning round the chairs and having a word with the chairs in relation to the savings that we have to make. And we've had very constructive discussions. It's nice to see the chairs, you know, all realizing that, you know, we have got to come up with something, that we've got a job to do. So I've been thinking today how best to manage this discussion, because obviously there's a lot of different things, there's a lot of different ways that we can go about it. So my feeling is that in the first instance, one of the first ones I've talked about, and I've talked to Rebecca and Pam in particular about this, and I know that they've discussed it with the other people, is that there is a proposal on the table, which we've discussed with Paul and Steve, about 126,000 from the skateboard park. And what we're on about is not taking the budget away in any shape or form, but kicking the budget down the road, if you want of a better word, down to the next year. Now the thing is, this is a bit of moving money about more than anything, because this money is going to be coming from, well, hopefully will be coming from the loan that hopefully we're hoping to have approved. We're waiting to hear from the Welsh Government. And that will be money that we're sort of moving across from the all-weather pitch in Underhill Park. So the way things are at the moment, it's not looking like we're going to be in a position with the COVID and with the funding position as it stands at the moment to be doing the all-weather pitch at Underhill Park probably this financial year. So that is the idea. So that in itself will save us £126,000 from this budget. I'll hand over to Paul, if you don't mind, if there's just anything else you want to add on that, because, you know, it is a bit of a moving things round, isn't it, rather than taking anything off a budget. But more than anything, I just wanted to reassure councillors that whatever happens, I really can't see that this would be in a position that it would delay or hold back the development of the skateboard park, depending on what situation that we're going to be in the next couple of months. And of course, bearing in mind the news that we had right at the beginning of this meeting. So Paul, I don't know if you've got anything to add on that.
Yeah, just to clarify, Chair, it's 116,000 is rather than 126,000. It's not the loan money that's being used, because obviously the loan has got to be used for the purpose that it's taken for, which is for Underhill. What's being used here is the money that MCC has got in its own budget, its own precept for Underhill. What was agreed back in June for the skate park was that it would utilise, in effect, it would borrow money from the Underhill budget, and then that money would be repaid, recovered from the precept in the next 2 financial years. But as the chair said, it's unlikely that there's going to be a start on the all-weather pitch within the next year. So I think it can safely be taken out of the budget for next year, and obviously would have to come in then in 2022-23. It's I think it's what's known in the trade as creative accountancy.
I didn't like to use that word, but yes, it is. Can I bring Will in first and then you, Pam? Sorry.
Yeah, just on this one specific point, I mean, we are obliged to fund the project for that amount, aren't we? We have promised, and so it's by no means it's never going to happen. So, and as you say, it's unlikely that the 3G pitch is going to be built. But in the situation where it was, let's just say in 3-4 months' time that the situation completely changed, there is of course the option that we could, for example, increase the loan. So it's not to say that even if that happened, we could still access the money in some way, I'm sure. So I'm with that in mind. I think it's a good idea. And while I'm on the mic, save you calling me up again. I'm on premises. I'm vice chair of premises also, but I do think the 100,000 in the budget for
that was going to be the
sorry.
That was going to be the next point.
I won't.
You can say it now. Go ahead. Yeah. Go
okay.
on.
Yeah. I think they were obviously all good ideas that were muted on that, and potential uses of that money towards Bowls Pavilion and maybe different things at Underhill or whatever, Ostream, but we just can't afford it. So I take that 100,000 out. As long as we have got the architectural fees still in the budget to push ahead the Ostream. I think it was 30,000. Is that right, Paul? Yeah, 30,000 to push ahead the Ostream into the. So hopefully next year, then we'll have some, more concrete plans on the Ostream. So yeah, as long as that 30,000 to push the Ostream forward still there, I'd suggest there's not really enough clarification on what that 100,000 is for me. So I think we'll have to take that out in this situation.
Okay, thanks for that, Will. But that was going to be the next point I was going to raise, but thanks that you've raised it there already. Pam?
Just to reassure people, I talked all this through with Paul and with Steve, and it makes perfect sense. And I know we've got to lose around 300,000 of what's in the budget at the moment. And I just think we've all got to, not bite the bullet, but we've all got to be willing to make changes to get this money down to the precept of where it really does need to be. So I can reassure people it's perfectly all right. They've told me, and I take the word completely. So not to worry about it.
Okay, thanks for that, Pam. Sarah?
You're on mute.
Okay, basically Pam's made the argument for me. That's fine. She's just said what I wanted to say.
Okay, thanks a lot, Sarah. So, okay then, so we've got 116 there. We've got the other 100,000 from the premises, so that's 216,000.
I think we need maybe a bit of a debate about that, Chair. That was just my opinion.
Okay. Anybody else want to come in on anything like that with the premises? But the thing is, we did discuss this quite a bit at this scrutiny meeting that we had, but all I'm sort of saying, these are suggestions at this point. We're going to have to obviously vote on it, but anybody else want to come in on this? Rebecca, did you want to say something?
I was just going to say, for the purposes of it being discussed at the full council meeting where we make the decision, I agree with Will. I suggest if anybody doesn't agree with Will that they speak, but otherwise we'll all be agreeing with each other.
Yeah, that's it. Okay then, Paul?
Yeah, sorry, I should have said at the outset, any cuts that you make are plus 10% because there's a 10% contingency added to the bottom of the budget. So in effect, the 100,000, if you take the £100,000 out of premises, you are actually reducing the additional money that's in the budget by 110,000.
I thought you were going to say you had a 10% commission charge then, Paul.
How do you think you can afford those guitars?
There's no strings on them.
Yeah, no strings on his bow. Right, though. So, okay, if everything is okay there. Right, the other suggestion I was going to put to council, because this comes under general sort of money, is there was a suggestion that came out of the review that we had with Alan Thomas about each individual councillor having their own pot of £2,000. What I'm suggesting from the discussion I've had with Paul and Steve is that in the first instance that we reduce that to £1,000, because that again will give us quite a significant saving. And because it's a new initiative, I'm just sort of thinking, well, let's start off with 1,000 and see if it's used in that instance in the first place. And of course, councillors then could cooperate with each other, councillors from different wards or councillors from the same wards, in using this budget for particular pet projects that they might be interested in. Will?
Yeah, we do this in Swansea Council. As you know, we get 10,000 a year to be able to put forward to plans. And when it comes to sort of road schemes and things like that, it gets washed up in a second. But when you sort of put it towards smaller things like floral things like wildflower, daffodils, and some of the nicer things, small grants to community groups, it can go a long way. And I think it'll definitely help councillors engage. And I think it's a really good idea. But if we can't afford these things, then we can't afford them. So if we can make a balanced budget work at half, then I'm all for it. But if we can't, then I think we can come back and reduce it to zero later.
As I said, it was just a suggestion. Carrie?
Yeah, it's pretty much Will said what I was going to say, which is I think it's an absolutely brilliant idea and I would strongly support it. But in our current position, I think it's something that we could perhaps vote on saying is going to be an absolute yes for next year. But I would actually be prepared to cut it completely for this year on the basis that we just have other priorities, unfortunately. And I think it's just something that, nice as it would be, we could actually manage without for another year.
Okay, thanks for that, Carrie. Rob?
I agree with Will that or with you actually, that maybe cut it to £1,000 this year, but I think I'd like to keep it in. I think there are other things on the budget which need to go before this does, and I would like us to keep it if we can.
Okay, well, that's exactly the discussions we need to have this evening. Miles?
Oh, yeah, sorry. just to sort of add my voice into this to say, I think when we've got to be cutting so much, I think this should be cut for this year. We can have a debate going forward.
Okay. So just leave it at that for now, because I've sort of planted that seed of an idea. As I sort of said, I've had a word with a number of you, and the chairs of the committees in particular, and I know that some of you have had some thoughts about how you might cut some of your budgets yourself. So can I hand over to some of the chairs with maybe some of the ideas that they've got? Anybody want to come in on this? Carrie?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think before we have any discussions about individual budget cuts beyond those, obviously, which were the big ones, which we've already discussed, that every chair should actually present first without any questions or comments, because otherwise we get in a position where we spend an hour arguing over the first committee, and then suddenly we're in a position where things are just randomly cut from the rest because we've run out of time.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying I want to be first, but I'm just suggesting that, there's no questions, but at this point, each chair just goes through and says, these are things that we have looked at as a committee and that we recognise can be cut.
Yeah, I got to admit, I have been giving some thought to this, how the best way to manage this, but Steve is trying to wave him frantically. He's drowning, I think.
Sorry, Chair. Yeah, what I suggested earlier was to make it fair on each committee. Each chair will have a sort of, in their mind, a list of priorities. So the thing that they're happiest to go, rather than so Carrie would go first with her what the project she'd be most willing to make a reduction on, and then you go to a next committee. And then you go around like that. So the cuts would be across all committees fair, and then you could discuss them as you go along.
Is that, are people amenable to that?
Yeah.
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 Okay, that sounds a good thing. Thank you for that, Steve. So who wants to kick off?
Looks like it's going to be me then.
Oh, I'm quite happy to.
Right, okay, we'll leave it to Ian then.
Okay, Ian, you go first then. Go on.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I think it's fair to say that the members of the Economic Committee preempted, shall we say, the foreseen difficulties with this particular budget. One of the things that we have a responsibility for is road safety. We had £20,000 in the budget. We decided that we would reduce that to £10,000. Now, there's we decided with the grants that which were somewhat questionable with certain councillors about painting premises, that should not be repeated, so that's been removed. Now, I think there was another one, but I'll move on anyway. One of the ones that we want to retain and support is the refuse collection point at Southend.
Yes.
Those of us in economic feel it's an area that's been neglected for a good many years, albeit there are city councillors there and community councillors. In fairness to Councillor Adam Gilbert, he was involved in bringing this to the attention of Community Council. Miles Langston has also been actively involved in it. He has been trying to make full and proper contact with certain officers that have a responsibility for it. But anyway, there was £10,000 allocated for that project. I have communicated with our RFO on this, and I'm reassured it's not shown on the budget currently, but it probably will be. But it would be ring-fenced anyway if it's not to be completed in this current financial year budget. So it would then roll on to the 21-22. I think it's a valid project, that, and I think we would get some recognition from the community in Southend about investing there. So if you have any questions, I'm quite happy to answer them.
Oh, thank you for that, Ian. That's a very useful contribution, it's going to be said. Anybody got any particular questions, anything they want to raise in relation to what Ian has said, Steve?
So what I suggested was each.
Yes.
I know that. Yeah.
No questions.
I just want to know one reduction from the budget in front of you that the chair is making.
Yeah.
Well, the reduction that I've made is from road safety, and the painting grants is a further reduction. Now, we could go on to the matter concerning the Southend toilets. We do contribute £4,000 for the retention and to keep them open in the winter period, and that could be something that that we may not have to continue, I believe, but I've had no definite written proof on that. So that would be a further £4,000 if it did come out of the economic budget.
Well, there's quite a number of suggestions there.
Yeah. Yes, I'm not Father Christmas. I don't want to give away
I know
too much.
That's what I'm saying. But well, that gives us very much something to work with there. Paul, are you managing to keep a track of all the different figures that we're talking about here?
Yeah, at the moment, there's the amounts that have been talked about in the painting grant that's already been taken out. That's accounted for in the figure that we've got. Road safety is 11,400, although 1,400 of that is will be a earmark reserve carry forward for the Hillgrove project, which is approved, but Swansea Council still haven't got round to doing. So the only potential saving at the moment, I think, is possibly the £4,000 for the winter opening of Southend toilets.
Do you want me to come back in on that?
Yeah, go on. Go on.
One of the other things that's in the economic budget is the festoon lighting, Christmas lighting on Newton Road. That's an allocation of £16,000. Now, it would, in an ideal world, it would be great if we can get that done. But if council feel that it's something that ought to be removed, well, I will go with the view of the council. So.
Okay, thank you for that, Ian.
Chair, if it's my proposal was one per committee, and then that way the chair, the things like Ian suggested that he'd quite like to keep that, he's likely to keep the festoon light. So if we start with 4,000 with the toilet,
if we stick with the 4,000 for the toilets for now.
Okay.
Okay, but thanks for bearing that in mind. So, Carrie, do you want to go now?
Yep. Okay. Right. Sorry. Just we haven't got a printer at the moment, so I'm having to do everything sort of sitting here with my iPad next to me. Right. Yes. We were lucky, I suppose, that we had an environmental committee last night. So we were able to actually look at the budget, and we have identified £11,500 worth of savings, which is around 16% of the budget, which I think is, compared across 5 committees, is actually a very reasonable. So we're looking at the first line, which is civic communities. We are suggesting that is cut back down to £10,000. Which is a saving of 2,750. We are suggesting that the wildflower budget, which was £1,000, is cut to £500. Flora in schools, based on the fact that we don't know what the position will be in terms of children actually being able to do a lot of work. The flora in schools for this year was very much going to be linked in with making the criteria for it would be pollinator friendly, grow your own vegetables, whatever. So we've agreed that we could probably cut that this year from £500 per school to £250 per school.
I was going to say, I looked at your proposals, and the way that you've approached it is very much a sort of salami slicing thing. You haven't sort of cut many projects, or if any projects, but you've reduced the budget on those projects rather than this is what I mean. We're going to do this.
Well, I think we're looking at the overall saving.
Yeah.
And that's why we felt that it was better that we could actually reduce our commitment rather than actually removing something completely, that we would just
No, I fully understand where you're coming from.
Spreading programs over a longer period of time, and therefore putting less in the budget this year.
No, I appreciate it, and that's the approach. Steve, what were you going to say?
Well, it sounds. My suggestion is not being adhered to. So either make it do it that way or don't. But it's much fairer to do perhaps 3 from each stone. So but do it otherwise. The last committee is going to be laughing because
this is it, because the last committee will have. So. Have you got any priorities there, really, Carrie?
Well, no, I think, there's a couple of other things that I haven't even mentioned that we feel that we could extend over a longer period of time as well. So really, I think perhaps you just look at the overall figure, which is that, by reducing and rebalancing the work that we're doing with different projects, that we can actually make a saving overall of £11,500.
11,000. Okay, thanks for that.
Okay,
Sarah.
Just to say, it looks like we're doing the salami thing with the schools, and I'm not one to cut money for the schools, but what we're doing is we don't think they'll be up and running early enough in the year to do the early seed stuff. So we'll carry on with the plants and compost later on in the year, so we can cut the budget without the kids perhaps even noticing.
Yeah.
If I could hand over to Rebecca, have you got any? I don't know what approach. I know that you've looked at your budget, but I don't know what approach you adopted.
Yeah, well, obviously the creative accountanting massively reduces the community and social wellbeing committee's budget, but I've got two other proposals. So in line with Steve's suggestion, I'll give you one of those now, which is we've got £45,000 in the budget for basketball. That was originally because we had a request from a resident which picked up all sorts of previous work that's been done around basketball. There's been since then even further inquiries from different residents about basketball, but we have got budget in there for 2 courts, and given the pressures that we're under, my suggestion would be that we reduce that by half so that we have 1 court this year. That's still up for discussion where it would be, etc., in consultation with community, etc., but it would save us £22,500.
No, I think that's a good point. Thank you for that, Rebecca. Will, did you want to come in?
Yeah, just to comment on that. I mean, the 2 sites that we've been looking at are obviously wherever the skate park goes, and Underhill, which is an agreed site, sort of almost oven baked, ready to go.
You want to use that phrase, Will?
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry,
yeah.
can I just interrupt? We said we wouldn't have questions back now. We are just presenting our recommendations. We're not actually putting forward arguments to either lose or retain anything.
Okay.
Right, well, thank you very much for the interruption there. Yeah, I just as long as Underhill's one of the the site where it goes, I think that that's a good idea.
Okay. Pam,
a quick point that came through in last night meeting that the council is now definitely offering the double courts at Langland and 1 other court. So of course, if the Langland tennis courts now comes into the mix of basketball courts, we just say we're going to put the money away for 1 court and we'll just deliberate when at a different date.
Okay, thanks for that. Rob, did you want to come in or something?
Yeah, we're trying to reduce the budget here because we've been too ambitious in what we want to deliver for the community, and that's why we find ourselves in the mess that we are in, really. I think really, and I appreciate Rebecca's offer to get rid of one of the basketball courts. I think we need to get rid of both of them this year because we've already got big projects on.
Sorry, Chair, are we having the debate about individual or not?
This is what I mean. I don't think we should be having that debate now. You put one tennis court, 1 netball court on the table. Thank you for that. So that gives us something to work forward with. Can I hand over to you now, Rob, as to what in your budget is the main thing that you think that you can lose out of the US?
I think regrettably, but because we have to get our budget down, I think we have to take out the phase 3 of the cliff lighting, which is £14,000.
£14,000. Okay, so Paul, can I ask you where we are now? We're still a long way off, I'm sure.
I haven't put them through yet because I didn't think any votes had been taken on taking them out.
No, we haven't taken any votes. I'm just looking for a sort of indicative thing of if we did agree to those. So we're talking about the 1 netball court, phase 3 of the cliff lighting.
Yeah, before you go on, I have made a list of everything.
All right,
more or less, and we've got savings of 277.
That's what I'm asking, really.
Yeah.
Can I say something?
Yes.
It's just that I just really think that the toilets are the one thing that you should keep. I mean, we're talking about an old bladder that I've got here, and so many times I'm in Mumbles, desperate for. So can I have some more detail about what toilets you were thinking of closing? Is there going to be a toilet in Mumbles open in the winter?
Yeah.
That's okay then.
I think the toilet that, correct me if I'm wrong, Ian, the toilet you're talking about is the one at South End, which would just be closed in the winter. So the one in Oystermouth Square would still be open.
They'll be there. Okay, that's fine. That's as long as the toilet's open.
Yeah. Right. So I'll go back to you, Steve. This is like pulling teeth, really, but like, what are you suggesting? If we go around again now, and based on the suggestions that we got, then we can vote on them?
Well, I would I assumed that people had agreed everything, really, but obviously, so you need to debate. I mean, Rob's saying both the basketball courts would go. So, do you want to? You probably need to make some decisions sooner rather than later. So, I would, on each round, I would vote on each thing. So,
okay then. Carrie, did you want to come in on something?
Yeah, I just, you know, that we haven't actually, Paul and Steve haven't actually kind of put their case to as for some of the costs in office costs, Ostream Centre costs, general budget. Maybe, you know, there might be some savings that we could make there as well. I don't know if they've considered those at all.
Did you want to come back on that, Paul or Steve? But otherwise, Rebecca?
Well, just while Carrie raises those costs, I mean, one of the things I find very confusing about the office Ostream general costs is that we are in a position where we are taking in rent. So we have an income of rent from the Ostream, from the OCA, but at the same time, we're paying back rent at the same time as having shouldered the maintenance costs of the Ostream Centre. So I just wanted to understand really, that seems quite confusing and messy to me, and how long that's going to go on for.
I'd like to ask about that as well.
Yeah, so would I.
We're giving them £10,000. Could somebody explain the finances to us?
Can I just while Rebecca's made a point before Steve replies to that? I mean, you know, we have saved a building and an organisation which probably wouldn't have been able to afford to carry on here. So there's that to keep in mind.
I'm not saying that will, but financially it's a very strange situation.
It is a strange situation. I agree with you.
Well, I mean, if they are to run the schedule, they can't afford the upkeep of the building. I understand what you're saying. It is a strange situation, but I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that situation. You know, at the end of the day, we've saved a massive community asset right in the heart of the village.
Yeah.
Otherwise, would have been another supermarket.
Does Steve or Paul want to come in on relation, particularly to the Ostream situation?
Yeah, I don't mind just very briefly speaking. Paul can interrupt if he feels fit. But basically, I mean, what we have to do with the budget is deal with the situation as we are now. So that reflects the real world. One would have hoped by now that premises would have negotiated a new lease with Ostream and we would know where we are. But those figures are what they are, and hopefully that will happen and they will go down. But in budgeting terms, you have to be conservative and take the worst case scenario, I think, in this.
Yeah, I think, to be honest as well, with the Ostream, is because of the COVID situation, it's really changed the sort of environment, isn't it, really? Pam?
I think this should have been dealt with in advance of the budget, because it now seems that we are paying them £10,000 to run the building when we are shouldering all the costs as well. It just doesn't make sense. And I know, first to admit, figures are not my fine point, but why are we giving them £10,000 a year when we are paying for everything else as well. And this lease should have been renegotiated back in last September. Why wasn't it done in time for the budget? Because now we could be taking public money, whereas maybe there's 10 grand in public money we should not be spending of it.
Harry?
Yeah, yes, we are in the ridiculous situation where the Austrian Association have actually relinquished to us all the costs that previously they had to cover, which was all the maintenance costs, utilities costs, etc., etc. They're still only paying us £7,000 a year for the entire building, and in exchange, we're paying them £9,600 for one very small room. My view is that we should stop paying them.
Okay, Sarah.
Yeah. Oh, hang on. Sorry.
No, you're not.
Okay. It is taxpayers' money. It isn't good value for money. We really need to be looking into this. It is a bit silly. We've saved the building. We just need them to pay their fair share and us not to pay out too much. I mean, we moved there for the room to be free for us to save money, so we didn't have to spend it out of council money. So,
okay, well,
yeah, without doubt, it needs to be looked at and discussed, without doubt. But the figure wasn't just pulled out of the sky. I think it was the amount that they were going to lose in loss of revenue. Steve, is that correct? From what they were making on the hall before we basically they had to let go a lot of people who hired the hall. Obviously, lots of different clubs, lots of people who used to hire the hall every week, and we came in and then had to basically stop all those classes or people that hired it. So they had a severe loss of income. So I think that's what the rent was based on. Steve?
That's correct, Will, yeah.
Harry?
Yeah, they've had no rental income that they are recouping from us since March, since lockdown. No. They wouldn't have been using that room, and therefore we're not actually taking a room that would otherwise have been giving them an income.
I really think, though, to be honest, this is a discussion for another time. Although this is an important discussion, our discussion this evening should be on the budget that we've got in front of us today. Now, although this is an important point and a point that's been raised before, we could just be going round in circles of this. We can't really answer that question today, but this is something that needs raising, and it is something that needs raising and sorting out with OCA and going forward. But I really think that we need to move on from the situation, from the point that we're being made now, because we cannot resolve this situation here and now. Carrie?
Yeah, we can, very simply. We say to them that as of April, we will no longer be paying them £800 a month. That's immediately £9,600 that we've saved.
But that is something that we can come to another, we can take to the premises committee, or we can take to another full council.
This is a decision that needs to be made now. We're looking at savings. This is the saving.
We're not obliged by any contract to do that. Could you clarify that, Carrie?
You're on
mute. Sorry, we're not obliged by any contract. We had a 6-month contract that was up months ago.
And it's
Since
not.
then, we don't have any contractual obligation to continue to pay them. We've just carried on paying them because there hasn't been any other decision not to. They are incurring no costs at the moment at all.
Yeah, I mean, our stuff is still there. I mean, if I imagine you're a landlord,
exactly.
Can I just
finish? Still there, and we're paying for it.
Can you let Will finish, please?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a landlord, right, and I rent out an office to someone during COVID, I'm still charging them rent, right, even if they're there or not. This is the same situation. I don't think we can completely just say we're not paying you anymore. Because the deal that we've been discussing with them is that they are still the operator of the whole building. Now, there's so much more discussion that needs to go into meat, that needs to go on the bones. There's so much more detail. I'm not comfortable making a snap. I totally understand. I totally understand that it makes perfect sense what you're saying, but there's implications and knock-on effects on them, and I'm not comfortable making a snap decision like that, unfortunately.
And to be honest, you know, there are a number of other concerns I think that we need to have there. The whole sort of idea that there are no costs being incurred. Surely there are costs on relation to rates or what have you that need to be paid.
No rates.
Or furlough charges for the staff that they've got.
Yeah, they might have 20% charge, but they are still getting some income because there is still people using the
And
building.
the thing is, you know, this was something that should have been looked at, as you sort of said.
Absolutely.
The agreement was that we paid them rent until such time as we took over the lease. We took over the lease some months ago, and we're still paying them rent.
Yeah, but
well, Chair, why don't we make it a priority before next council to come up with a solution?
Yes.
You know, but
that's what I'm advocating really, is that we do, you know, we do raise this, we do take this forward, because as I seem to remember it, this was something that was supposed to be, you know, high up on the agenda some time ago. Then sort of COVID came in and everything sort of went out the window a bit, like. But this is definitely something that has probably slipped a bit too much now, and we really need to sort of deal with. So yes, let's minute this then, that this is something that we need to address, and we need to be coming back to the next full council with some sort of clear suggestion of how we resolve the situation. Ian, did you want to make a point?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Can I just support Will Thomas here? I think we're losing sight of the fact of how fortunate we've been in acquiring the Austrian Hall, not only for the use of by community council, but as a fantastic amenity for the community, for Mumbles. You know, the alternative, you know, would have been another commercial development, and that's the last thing that we need. Now, yes, there are issues with regard to the shall we say, the financial arrangements with the OCA. And as you've intimated, I think we really ought to have a meeting set up with the OCA, with the premises working group, and move forward in that direction, show goodwill on our part, and hopefully we'll get the same from the OCA, and then we can finally put this matter to bed. It has been a difficult time, not only for the OCA, but it's been difficult for trying to get a bona fide meeting going, because the chair doesn't do, shall we say, virtual meetings. So that has been a limitation. There's no good shaking your head, Councillor Erasmus. That isn't a reality. There's also been a change with the committee set up with the OCA, and I'm sure they would welcome having a meeting with us, and let's move this forward in the proper way. Let's be thankful for what we've got. Thank you.
Okay, Rob, but I would be keen to move on forward on this, but go on, Rob.
I'll be very quick. 100% agree with Ian.
Yeah, I think I agree with that as well. Is that we need to take this forward. It is something that's pressing, something that has been quite some slippage on, but as I sort of said, you know, unprecedented times and sort of stuff like that. So let's resolve that we're going to take this forward. But now, can we go back to what we were talking about with the budget that's in front of us at the moment? I don't know where to go forward, Steve. I've just Rebecca, have you got any ideas?
Well, I was just going to suggest, if we are going to vote on the proposals that have been put forward in what I'll call round one, can I suggest that we take a vote on, from my proposal, that we take a vote on losing one basketball court, and I will put forward a proposal for losing, or the option of losing the second is there in round two.
Yeah, okay.
Or four.
No, that's a good point. So just to move things forward, can we go forward then just on that proposal? All those in favour of losing the one netball court? Okay, so that's carried. So, righto. Steve, can you remind me on the other one? That was the South End toilets was the other one?
That's right, South End of Toilet 4,000.
Okay, all those in favour of that we close South End toilets in the winter? Okay, 1, 2, 3. All those against?
Can we be against at this stage and come back to it in around 3 or 4 if necessary? It looks like it's going to carry anyway.
It's going to carry anyway, yeah. Just don't confuse me. So that's carried unless anybody's got any strong objections to that. As I sort of said, not a perfect world in any shape or form, but at least there are toilets on the flat down at Oystermouth, which are open in the winter as well. Okay.
Ex-chair, you've got from environment, I've got 2 on that list that I noted. One was civic amenities down from 12,750 to 10,000.
Okay, all those in favour of that, the reduction? Okay, anybody against? No, so that's carried. Next one, Steve.
Wildflowers from 1,000 to 500.
Yeah, okay, all those in favour of that? Any against? No. So is that the
Sorry,
first?
Martin, I got a disconnection, so I was for everything that you voted for.
Okay, thank you very much. We've got that on record now. I got to admit,
so I'm against that.
Oh, you're against the world. So sorry. Okay, we can register that. So is that the first round through?
And the final one was culture and tourism, 14,000, phase 3 of the cliff face lighting.
Oh yes, phase 3, the cliff face lighting. How much is that? 14,000.
That's right, Chair. Yeah.
All those in favour of losing cliff lighting? Okay, all that's clear. Well done, Council. We've reduced the budget quite significantly there already. So we go on to phase 2 then. Can we total up the savings that we've made so far?
Shall I just quickly share my screen? Because on the top,
yes,
just show you where we are, and Paul can tell us what our targets are. Bear with me 2 seconds. I'll just.
Thank you very much, Stephen.
So can you see right at the top, we've got the budget, the precept and the savings.
Yeah.
So that's where we are. So Paul, I don't know whether you can clarify what our targets are for
340, huh?
What was
yeah,
the
we
precept? What was
we
the
need to
precept
get
last year?
Yeah.
Precept for last year was £57.99.
On band D.
On a band D, yeah. And to repeat that this year, because of the increase in properties, the council can have a budget of £600,000 and £100. So we're not massively away from it at the moment.
Yeah, so it's the precept figure that we're looking at rather than the budget figure. Could you just repeat it again, please, Paul? 50.
Precept is £57.99.
Right, so 50. We have to get it down to 57.99. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and to get to that, with the number of properties that that Swansea Council have given us, I've said as in mumbles now, we can the budget can be £600,000 and £100.
So that means, right, if I'm right, Paul, we need to save 35,810.
Yeah, I'm about 2,000 out from you. I'm down to 633, Steve, but it's the same ballpark.
So that gives you an idea, Chair, that you're going to try and find another 35,000 odd saves.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So
Right.
round 2.
Excellent. So if we go to round 2 then.
The allowance for councillors, if we take that out completely, how much will that save us?
16,000.
That would save another 18,000.
That's
Right.
done, isn't it?
That's good.
That's it.
That takes us almost there.
That's
Well,
it.
hang on, we haven't voted on that or
I'm
anything.
just
No, but I'm saying it would.
Just saying, if that went, then we would just about clear it.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't know how much it was, Rob. I was just
Yeah.
asking how close we would get with that.
Just asking. Okay, Rob, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I'm going to be slightly contentious here because we're all having to make sacrifices to get our budgets down. And there is one thing on the budget, well, it's more than one thing, but there's one thing especially that stands out to me as shouldn't be on the budget. And I'd like to have a vote on that, and that is the Climate Emergency Fund, because it's ambiguous. It doesn't say for any particular reason, and surely if an emergency did come up, that could be taken out of contingency. So my proposal is that that goes, because as it stands, environmental haven't taken a lot off their particular budget. I've taken 14,000 off mine. Rebecca's taken significantly off hers. Ian's taken off the what's it called, economic. But it seems like environmental want to keep everything, but just take a little bit off everything. So I say that contingency fund for environmental is actually too ambiguous to have here as a budget item.
Okay, I'll hand over to Carrie in the first instance.
Yeah, there were two further things that we had agreed to reduce the budget for, neither of which actually went into round one. One of which was that we reduced that fund from 15,000 to £10,000. So there's a saving of 5,000 for you. And there was also, sorry, I need to just get back to, there was also a further reduction in Castlewood's paths that we would reduce that £4,000 to 2,500. So that's an additional £6,500 that we have saved. At the moment, economic is cutting theirs by 4,000. We're cutting ours by 11,500. Climate emergency is something which, if any of you bothered to read the press release from Swansea Council, was actually voted for unanimously. Every political party group voted to support it for Swansea Council to progress with their climate emergency programme. So I think it would be rather foolish of us to say that we're not prepared to follow our commitment, which was made last year. The idea of this is that we use it for various initiatives which are not perhaps immediately, although we have a lot of ideas at the moment already. And if you'd have read my revised budget proposal, you would have been able to read them. Which gives all the very clear aims and objectives of that project, to ensure that things like progressing with plastic-free mumbles, progressing with ensuring that we can keep our area clean without the use of pesticides, looking at carbon neutral programs and progressions. This could be ideas that we come up with. It could be ideas that local groups come to us and say, they would like some funding towards. You know, we have declared a climate emergency, and we would look pretty stupid if we then turn around and said, yeah, we've declared a climate emergency, but we're going to ignore it.
Okay, Sarah and then Rebecca.
Yeah, we've declared a climate emergency. We can't just say, oh, we've declared a climate emergency, but we've got nothing in the kitty because we've spent it on, I don't know, Mumbles Fest or something.
Which cost a fortune.
Or paths.
Okay.
Or flowers.
Okay, Rebecca. And then.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of challenge some of the way you phrased that a bit, Rob. You know, to say if there was an emergency, we could take it out of reserves. There is an emergency. We've declared a climate emergency. I don't think we need to take it out entirely when we're looking at cutting it by a third anyway. Certainly not at this stage in proceedings, when I know there are other ideas around the table for savings that we could make. So I would certainly support reducing it to 10,000. And then, yeah, as Carrie points out, the savings from Environmental Committee are comparable with other savings that have been proposed. And then, you know, we can always revisit.
Can I just come back on that? Because my point I was making wasn't that the idea of the fund was wrong, and I wasn't denying that we're in a climate emergency. What I'm saying is that proposal is ambiguous. You can dress it up however you want.
It's not a contingency.
It is a contingency fund.
Okay.
No,
It's not. It's not got things decisively allocated to it.
Yes, it has. If you read the budget proposal, you see there's very specific things allocated to it.
Okay, can I bring Richard in, please? Richard's been waiting patiently.
Patience is the middle name. Right. With the additional savings that Carrie has mentioned, along with the savings if the councillors' fund was cut completely, where are we now?
I think we'll be hitting the thing then.
So this argument we're having could be unnecessary.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Richard. Ian, did you want to come in?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to pick up on Councillor Jones's point about cleansing, well, Environment already has a budget of £14,000 for cleansing, and I must say it's not working terribly well. So I don't know how much money you need for cleansing, but it's not working. But moving on from that, we haven't touched on the...
Carrie, can you let Ian finish, please?
We haven't touched on the JEC committee. Now, of course, on the JEC committee, there is an application for hybrid meeting equipment costing £13,800. Now, I think we could possibly manage without that, and that would help quite a way.
Good point.
Okay, Pam.
I wasn't.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm not involved in that discussion, but I'm asking a question. I'm not getting at anything. I've gone down and I've seen things like Mumbles Fest, Mumbles Food Festival, guided walks, fashion shows, digital archive perhaps doesn't come into that. When are these things scheduled for? And are they now in jeopardy because we won't be able to do them? And so could we look at them in that respect? If they're scheduled for 2022, fine. But we could lose things like maybe the fashion shows that would give us 1,500, the food festival, which we wouldn't be able to run because it wouldn't be legal. That's another £10,000. But I don't know what the timetable is, Rob.
What do you mean it wouldn't be legal, Pam, a food festival?
Well, if the shutdown continues, which they're saying it will into the summer, we might not be allowed to have a food festival. I'm just wondering what the time. I'm asking questions, Rob. I'm not looking for answers.
Fine, that's
I am
fine,
looking for answers, but just asking the questions.
Yeah, the food festival is planned for September, October.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
Okay. Carrie, did you want to come in and then we'll...
Yes, I agree. We haven't actually looked any further at where there are potential savings in other committees, which we seem to have just focused on climate emergency, which, as Rebecca has already said, we have looked at and said that we would be happy to reduce that by 1/3, which is quite a significant saving. And I think there's a lot of other things in other committees that still could be looked at where funding could be reduced, which would save a significant amount. Okay. As far as the hybrid meetings is concerned, which is what is discussed at the moment, I think probably of all the things on JEC, the most important. You know, we are going to be in this position for some time to come. And I think we need to be in a position where we are able to ensure that people who don't have access to technology can actually be physically in a room, but at the same time, those people who are unable to actually meet face to face have the opportunity to participate through technology. So hybrid meeting technology for me is the way forward, and it's something not just for the next few months, but is going to be needed for a very long time to come. And therefore, although I can see other savings that can be made in JEC, which I'm more than happy to discuss, because as Vice Chair, obviously I can represent that because Gareth's not here, I don't think that's one of them.
Okay, Will and then Richard.
Yeah,
Chair, you didn't get the answer from the clerk on where we are now before it might stop any more discussion if he says we're there.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the can I just jump in just before the clerk comes in? I just think that is the wrong way to think about it, right? We shouldn't just be, we've hit the number we want to hit, fine, let's all go home. You know, if we don't agree things should be in the budget, then we should not have them in budget. We shouldn't be trying to hit a figure, just an arbitrary figure. We should be trying to get, you know, value of what we all agree. You know, if there's more that can be taken out of the budget, then let's relieve the people of Mumbles with a couple of extra quid, you know? So, but just before we get too excited about hitting a number, sorry, Clark, if you did want to bring the clerk in before me, that's okay.
Richard, I'll bring in first. Sorry.
And sorry, I hadn't actually said my point.
Sorry.
I thought you were bringing. I thought you were bringing.
Oh
the
no,
clerk
bring
in.
Clark in. Sorry.
Yeah, do you
want to come in? Yeah,
asked the question, didn't he? If the personal allowances is taken down to 0 rather than 1,000 per councillor, what the effect would be, and if we include Carrie's recent £7,000 savings from Environment Committee, we're down to 608,410. So there's another 8,000 odd to come off.
Could I ask two questions, Chair, about two quite big parts of the budget? Two very good projects, but just a couple of questions on them, if I may. Rob, with Mumbles Fest, do you think that's realistic? Are you going to go ahead this year?
I think it's realistic, but we'll be looking at the late summer for it rather than the time we'd normally have it, June, July. So we're looking August.
Okay, and Rebecca, I don't know if you...
Sorry, Will, to just come back on that. My honest answer is I'm hoping so. We're going to have to wait till, I would say, Easter, April, May, before we can make a final decision on that, because it depends on the guidance from Welsh Government and how the vaccination's going, but I'm hoping we can have it.
Yeah, well, being in the events industry, I know exactly the pressures are under there. Just Rebecca, is Rebecca there? It's a question for Rebecca.
She's had to leave the room for a moment.
She's come back.
Oh, she's back.
I didn't think you could move that fast in a fourth trimester.
Like my bladder calling. Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. I should have warned you. Just a question really on the play area which is proposed for West Cross. I know it's what the proposal is. I just want to know the you know, what our money's going towards, and you know, because there's obviously quite a lot of money committed from the West Cross councillors on that already. You know, is it needed, and what was it going towards specifically?
Well, the proposal is to make the final decision on exactly what will be put there up to consultation with local young people. So I can't answer the question of exactly what bit of play equipment will it fund. In terms of is it needed, I would say absolutely. You know, the whole area is part of our placemaking strategy. So you know, we don't want to do this by halves. We want to make sure we've got a good amount of money in the pot to get proper equipment down there that kind of creates a what's the word I'm looking for? A kind of hangout spot, I suppose, rather than it just being something that people ultimately walk past.
Okay, and with our money, that adds up to a total budget of like 56, does it then?
50,000, yeah.
50?
Yeah, 30 from City and County and 20 from us.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, Carrie.
Yeah, coming back to Mumbles Fest and the food festival, yeah, I mean, obviously we really want those to go ahead. But I think, you know, let's be realistic. They're not going to be big events like they were before. Social distancing is still going to be in place over the summer. I think, you know, you look at any scientific evidence and it says that this is not going to go away. So we've got to be realistic. It's not going to be the size of previous events. And I feel that, you know, there was a £20,000 in the budget for Mumbles Fest, £7,500 in the budget for the food festival. I really don't see that we need to actually increase those budgets beyond that. And therefore, I would suggest that we could actually have a really, really good event, as we have done on that budget previously, without actually increasing either of those budgets.
The reason that they've been increased is to prepare for wet weather, bad weather.
Okay.
So
Yeah, well, there is already funding money in that budget for a large marquee, and if there's wet weather, with the numbers of people that we would be allowed to have, then one marquee is more than sufficient.
Okay.
That's just your opinion.
Okay, thanks, Rob. Pam?
My view is where we could make,
excuse me,
Can we let Pam
£1,500 of savings.
else speak?
Pam?
I know we've been talking about the digital archive for the last 4 years or so, but would it hurt the digital archive if for £8,000 we deferred it for 1 year? Not get rid of it, but deferred it for 1 year. That would be £8,000. I don't know precisely what stage that project is at. I'm just asking.
Yeah, I really hope not. I mean, there's quite a lot of people that are committed to it, and there's some people who've let's say worried about how much time they've got left on this earth, and they want to contribute to that archive and pictures and oral histories and things. And the longer it's put off, the more things that are missed out. So you can imagine if there's a
I've got it. Don't worry, I've got it.
Okay, thank you for that, Will. Richard?
Yeah, going back to my original point, I hear what Will was saying. We shouldn't just be trying to hit an arbitrary figure. However, we need to keep within budget first of all. Once we've done that, then we can discuss all the other things. Yes, there's other savings that could be made, but we don't want to be here till midnight. Yeah. All we need now is that £8,000 worth of savings. We've hit the budget, and then we can discuss all these other issues where savings could be made. Perhaps once we've hit the budget for tonight, we could discuss these at the next meeting, and in between then, other committees could have a look at the budget and to see what extra savings could be made. Okay. Just an idea.
No, good point. Thank you, Richard. Sarah, and then Rebecca.
Just to, yeah, I am on. Just to say, I support Will on the digital archive thing. It needs to be moved on. You get the photographs and all the histories put in. That's something people can use even if we are locked down. Whereas marquees and that, we might find ourselves spending money which we can't get back.
Okay. We might find ourselves not spending the money at all. We don't know.
Okay, Rebecca.
So just to clarify, while I was out of the room, we need to find £8,000 and then we're on.
Yeah.
Fine.
So if you take out the added money to the Mumbles Fest and the added money to the food festival, that comes to £8,000. If you just keep the budget as it is and don't increase those 2 items budgets, then you've got it.
Rebecca, did you want to come back on that, and then Rob?
So the only last suggestion I was going to put in, I think probably at this stage, was in the JEC committee budget. We've got 11,600 for the barometer.
Yes.
That feels like quite a lot in the circumstances.
Yes.
And the other thing to consider is that it was, I think, originally put forward as a budget idea before we agreed that Alan Thomas would do his learning by doing with the Mumbles tennis courts consultation.
Yes.
And we're spending that money on upskilling ourselves. It seems counterintuitive to then spend over £10,000 on asking someone else to do a similar exercise. So I was just going to propose that is reduced maybe to 5,000 so that we have a community consultation budget, but that saves us £6,600.
Brilliant.
Very good point, Rebecca. I agree with that. Rob?
Yeah, I'd like to agree with Rebecca about taking out the community barometer of £10,000, which is quite a lot. Rather than people assume that Mumbles Fest isn't going to go on, we don't know yet. We've got, as I said to Will, we're hoping it's going to go on. We hope the food festival is going to go on as well. But what we've got to do is try and establish certain things within the Culture and Tourism Committee. Mumbles Fest is one, the Food Fest is another, because last year we gave grants to 2 different food festivals, which seems ridiculous when we can do it ourselves. We have Claire here to work for us. and to try and do something which is going to appeal to all the community. Doing these two events, which are the sort of flagship events of the Cultural Committee, it's better to have the money to do them properly than to do them half-heartedly. That's why I would like the extra added on, call it a contingency for bad weather, and I would like those left alone if possible. And I would suggest we take out the community barometer instead.
Could we, a question, Chair, could we take out the added money to the fest and the food festival, but say that if he needs that, we can take that amount out of contingency, which is around £10,000. But in like the skate park, we've moved money around rather than lost it. Does that
It's not a contingency then if you're relying on it, you guys.
Absolutely, and this is why we're in the mess we're in now, is because we've taken things from contingency and we've promised too much, and we can't deliver everything that we'd like to do.
If you just say you won't need it.
Oh, okay.
Saying you won't need it.
Okay, can I ask Richard and then Will to come in, please?
On the food fest, etc., when we come out of lockdown, I think having those festivals will be fantastic to raise spirits. Also, they could be a good money spinner for all businesses involved, bars, etc. So we need to make sure they're done properly.
Okay, Will, did you want to come in and then Carrie?
Yeah, we touched on the hybrid meeting equipment, and that somehow got sort of skimmed over. But I do think it's like a sort of perfect world. The hybrid equipment, if we were all out of the office or using the office, and it's a great facility to have. Obviously, having microphones and cameras that can track different people's great. And maybe in a new look off stream, that's something we build into some kind of grant application. But I think, you know, we're all quite comfortably using Zoom here. We're probably going to be in this situation for another 6 months. So personally, I think it's something that we don't say goodbye to, but maybe we keep it on, maybe look at it next year, or as part of any application we put in for the off stream in the future. So
okay.
I suggest we just take that out straight away as well as.
Okay, can I just then have Sarah and Carrie in, and then I'd like to sort of try and I'll put forward a suggestion based on what everybody's been talking about.
In response to Richard's comments, yes, I can understand Mumbles Fest. If we come out and everything, it would be great for local businesses, but we don't want to, as a community council, stand to be the people throwing something that could end up as a super spreader situation with people just coming out of the pandemic, going back in Mumbles simply because we've all got together when we shouldn't have. I'm just a bit anxious about that.
Okay, thank you. Connie?
Yeah, the food festival should actually generate some income. So therefore, I think, you know, before we start, putting in extra costs, we should actually look at saying, well, let's keep the budget as it is and look at getting the rest back in income from you know, the traders that will actually be benefiting from it. I'm not saying we take all their profits, but I think there is potential there for us to get some income from it. Okay. As far as Mumbles Fest, I really don't see how we need, you know, 20,000 is a lot of money. Okay. And we've put on fantastic festivals for that amount of money before. And in the current circumstances, we're not going to be looking at anything bigger. So I think we can safely say that we actually are able to put on a really brilliant event for £20,000 without actually having to put yet more money in.
Okay, thank you for that, Carrie. Paul, did I want to bring you in, and then I'll bring Richard and Pip in?
Yeah, just to clarify what Carrie was saying about income, there is already an income budget within the cultural budget of £7,500.
Okay.
Which would cover both Mumbles Fest and the food festival.
Okay, Richard and then Pip.
Yeah, in relation to what Sarah was saying, I appreciate your concerns, but clearly we wouldn't put on something like Mumbles Fest unless it was safe.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, we would have to follow the guidelines.
Yeah.
Saying that, we had the Eat Out to Help Out thing, that just didn't help us.
No.
Did it? Like.
Help out to spread it.
That's it. Phil, Pip.
Yeah, sorry. Just a thought on Carrie's point about revenue. I think that it's too late for this year, but I think for next year we should set up a working group to look at revenue opportunities for the council, period. What we can make money of in our community, locally, from businesses, etc. Because there's a real opportunity there. We've got great exposure around Mumbles. And I think we need to look at that for next year's budget. You know, we could be earning 10, 20, 30,000 pounds, you know, which would go towards something else. If we save 20 and make 20, that's 40,000, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
And the other thing, last point, was just a bit of bank interest, Paul. We should be getting a little bit of interest on money in the bank. Some banks don't offer it, but they should be there somewhere. So I don't know if we're getting anything on the 800k we've got in there.
We're getting a very small amount from Lloyd's, and it's something that I've been meaning to look at for a while. We need to get a policy in place for investing that money, and I will do that as a matter of urgency for JEC.
Put it all into Bitcoin, Paul.
Okay.
We need to take a vote on extending the meeting.
Yeah, I was just going to do that.
Okay.
So suspend the sort of standing orders. Are we all okay to continue the meeting? Hopefully not for far too long. Okay, everybody all right? I was just going to make a suggestion based on the discussions that have been going around, is that the consultation barometer doesn't seem to have a lot of support in relation to how we might take things forward. Now, as I understand, is that 9,000, Paul? 10,000. So say
11,600.
11,600. So say, you know, based on what Rebecca was saying there, you know, we cut that down to 5,000 just for a more general sort of consultation sort of budget, because it does seem to me that we're duplicating things. And then in relation to the equipment, the meeting equipment, that's quite a sizable budget, isn't it? How much is that?
13,000 something.
13,800.
Yeah.
13,800. And, you know, are we really going to be in a position to be installing that within, you know, let's be honest, the next 6 months? Is that, you know, we could be talking.
Yeah, it's the budget for 21 to 22. So you need to ask the question, are you in a position to, say, install it in a year's time? And you probably will.
Yeah.
Think ahead. What I'm saying is this budget.
So what you're saying, we could put it on to the next budget?
No, I'm saying looking ahead 6 months is you need to say, will I be doing it within the next 15 months, not the next 6 months? It's a question you need to ask.
Well,
I still think the answer's that we've got to take it out. It's a great thing to have, but we're all coping okay without it. And, you know, you just go on Zoom individually. We can cope. You know, this is about uncomfortable decisions we have to make. And this is not really that uncomfortable, is it? Let's be honest. It would be great to have.
Can I just update you, because you keep on obviously need to know. Have you made a decision on whether the individual thing is scrapped for this year?
No, we haven't made a decision, but that is one of the things that has been proposed.
I would suggest you take a vote on that, and then if you took out the consultation barometer, if that was passed and you took out the barometer, because that's a formal quote to do a job. I don't think I think you probably either have it done properly or you don't. You put it off to next year, which you could with the barometer. It's not. That would be below the figure you want. So that's
one question, Chair.
Yeah, go on.
Steve, could I ask you one question on the hybrid software? You know, obviously, if we're looking at making changes to the Ostream, you know, is it easy to just unplug it and stick it in a new room, or does it need the contractor to come back out and refit it?
I don't know is the answer, but I asked the question. I said we are liable to move, and they didn't seem to think it would be a problem for it to be moved at all. It's
okay. Can I bring Adam in?
Thank you very much. Just a point on the hybrid equipment. I do recognise the need for it, and we may be a vanguard and trendsetters in getting it, but it will be very unpopular. I foresee quite a few complaints about us spending money on better Zoom meetings and technology. It's not going to go down well with the public. I do, however, recognise the need for it, and sooner or later we will do it. We should not be held hostage by the public doomsayers. But if we are cutting the budget, that's not going to be a vote winner.
Yeah.
Okay, Rebecca.
I was just wondering really what our officers' view is. Things like this hybrid equipment. If we take it out of the budget this evening, if in 12 months' time it is still essential for us to have hybrid meetings, i.e. we're not fully out of lockdown, that will have huge implications for the rest of the budget. So would we not therefore be in a position to not just ditch this idea entirely, because there's all sorts of good reasons why we should be considering doing it, but actually just put it on the back burner so we don't include it as a commitment in this year's budget, but that we consider that if there's underspend in other areas, that it's something that we can come back to. Does that sound like a sensible approach to, say, Paul, who I'm pleased to see has put his hand up?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I suggested in my report was that we also come up with a sort of priority list of things which have been removed from the budget, because there's likely to be an underspend in the current year's budget, which could be carried forward as a earmark reserve. And if you've got a priority list, then any underspend in the current year's budget could be immediately used to the top priorities. So if you were minded to do that, you could put it on the priority list at the top, and then it would then be funded by any underspend in the current year. But I think Steve is obviously the one to answer on the sort of requirement for the new equipment.
And my feeling I'll just come in on this. My feeling is on this hybrid equipment, we're not even going to be in a position to use it until we have some sort of way of using the office. And, that is looking at probably the most by about, March, April time, I'm thinking at the moment. Because unless we're using the office, we're going to be using individual interactions like this on our own personal devices. I'm a big fan of this hybrid device. I think it'll be a fantastic way of getting the public involved in our meetings, but this will be when we're back in the office. And so to save people having to come to our meetings down in the Ostream Centre, they'll be able to click in from their computers at home, ask questions from their computers at home. But until we're back in the office, I just cannot see that we're going to be able to use it.
That is when the budget's from, though, isn't it? March. So, but...
Yeah, okay.
But yeah,
if we take a vote on our personal allowances thing and on the point that Rebecca came up.
Okay, Carrie.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Carrie.
I think there's a very happy medium between dumping it and going for the full technical spec for hybrid. We can actually invest for a ridiculously smaller amount of money than that in a very, very good quality central microphone, big screen. We've got the projector, we've got the screen, a higher spec Zoom where we can actually have, say, 4 or 5 people in the office who have a central microphone, a big screen, they can all be seen, they can contribute, and people who otherwise are not wanting to be in the office, obviously, it suits us fine to be on Zoom. And we can actually have a mix of the both for a relatively simple, not as fancy as the whole hybrid kit, but for probably, I don't know, £4,000 or £5,000, we could have a position where people like, OCA, the classic example, we're spending £20,000 on paying for the Austrian because we can't organise a meeting that the chair can turn up to because she doesn't use technology. By having a simpler system whereby there can be 3 or 4 people sat in the office contributing to a meeting, other people are joining in from Zoom, members of the public, whatever, you know, so let's actually cut that to say £5,000 rather than 13,600. Look at something as a temporary measure for next year, which actually enables people who do not have, and there are people, sorry, whatever people say about, oh, it's fine, we can all join in with this, they can't. So let's have a means by which people who don't have that technology can join in, but we're not going for a full on, you know, all bells and whistles hybrid technology.
Okay, then Rob, come in, but I think maybe we can start to think about moving.
I think for the first time tonight, I actually agree with Carrie. I think, you know, it's like me as a musician. If I want to learn the violin, I don't go out and buy a Strad. I buy something I can work with. And my proposal is that we do exactly as Carrie has said with that. We reduce it down to £5,000. That takes us to the £8,000 we need to find, and we can still protect our individual ward spending things to £1,000 as well.
Okay, so again, I'll put forward a proposal, see what the people in the room think about it, is that we put forward that we get rid of the consultation barometer and that we reduce the hybrid equipment to £5,000.
Okay.
Sorry, I think we agreed. I thought the suggestion was that the hybrid barometer is reduced to £5,000 for community consultation.
That was a suggestion, but I'm putting forward a different suggestion.
To get rid of it completely. Okay.
Yeah. Okay,
He's the chair, he makes the rules.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just wanted to clarify what we're voting for.
No, this one, I mean, I was just putting that forward is sort of say, because, you know, the whole point, I forget who made it, I think it was maybe Paul, that was a quote for a particular piece of work. You know, we have got other money there that we can use for sort of consultation. We've got the sort of Alan Thomas sort of stuff there. That we get rid of the consultation barometer, that we reduce the hybrid equipment to £5,000, and we put that to the group. Are people happy with that? Okay, then. So I'll put it to the first group that we get rid of the consultation barometer. All those in favour? Okay. That's carried. And then we reduce the hybrid equipment to £5,000 to take that forward. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried as well. So have we got to our figures now, Paul, Steve? Because that will reduce us.
I've got it to you down at 606,320. So there's another 6,220.
Let's just vote on the councillors' allowance then.
Yeah. I suggest that we look at maybe an alternative, because the councillors' remuneration, or that sort of fund, is more than we need to reduce it by. So maybe we can reduce something else to keep that councillor funding.
Miles, did you want to say something? Are you trying to vote or what?
No. I was going to suggest that we just remove the councillor funding entirely. To be honest, I'm a bit concerned about how it would work. I think that I'm not sure what we can achieve that can't be achieved through grant funding and our normal processes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Thank you for that. Anybody, Carrie?
Yeah, I would just say I would rather keep that fund, and I think there's other things we could make savings on instead.
Well, Paul said that the money that we saved, Rob's 8,000 in his added bits. Paul has said that we've got unspent money that immediately come in to cover that.
Yeah, that would get us under the figure.
And then you could keep your councillor spending.
Yeah.
Okay, Rebecca.
Can I just confirm, at the moment, the councillor's individual amount is 1,000, right? We've already cut it by half. So now we're talking about cutting it entirely.
Yes.
Oh.
That's what we're
I'm not in favour of that.
No, we've just said that if we stop Rob's increases, Paul has said that there's unspent money that Rob could get back from the unspent money, but it would effectively come out of the budget, and we're there.
Okay. Could just do 500 instead of 1,000, yeah?
Well, 500 isn't an awful lot to do something with.
I don't know what you do with that, really.
Yeah, I think we need to stick to 1,000 if we're going to do anything.
Okay, Richard.
Yeah, we go around in circles here. We could be here all night. If we vote on the councillors' fund, we've hit the budget. We can always reinstate it if we get money from elsewhere, if we make cuts elsewhere later on. The first thing we need to do tonight is hit the budget.
Well, Rob, are you willing to take those two down, knowing that Paul's got the money to give it back to you in unspent money ready there waiting? But it will come out in the figures of the budget, but you know that it's there for you to have back afterwards. In the same way we move the state park and you get it back afterwards.
Okay, Rob.
It doesn't work like that, Pam.
No, it doesn't quite work like that.
Well, there's £70,000 worth of contingency. That if the contingency is it's a heat wave, it won't be needed. If the contingency is it's looking really rubbish and it's going to rain all month, then it can be brought out of contingency.
We've got
the money. Case, you might as well just
the money is there.
One at a time, please.
In that case, you might as well just reduce the contingency. It's the same thing, right?
Yeah, except that we've agreed, I think, under financial regulations that the contingency will be 10%.
We've agreed, but there's nothing. There's no. I don't think there's any.
In financial regs.
I don't think it is.
It is.
Paul, are you able to comment on that?
Not without checking financial regs. I do think it's a prudent amount to put in 10%. I think it. If you reduce it, then you potentially got problems if something happens later in the year in any other area. So
I totally agree. I'm not
advocate 10%. Sorry.
Yeah, so would I. I'm not advocating that we do. I'm just making a point. Sorry.
Yeah, I think we need to stick to the 10%.
Are we? How much are we looking for to lose altogether, please, Paul?
7,000.
Can we take?
We're looking at 6,200, I think.
Yeah, can we as well, Paul?
Can we just bin the community barometer totally?
We have. That includes.
We have.
So we've taken it down to 5,000, haven't we?
No.
That's not.
That's the hybrid equipment we took.
Oh, the hybrid equipment.
The barometer we binned completely.
Chair, can I say Carrie did have a further saving? I don't know if she wants to put it forward from her committee.
Where's she gone? She's not here now.
Oh, she's vanished. I'm sure she won't mind us.
It was the floor in schools, which is 3,500. She was going to reduce the amount to each school by half, so that would be halved.
Yeah.
Rana, do you want to say something?
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay. Phil Thomas?
Yeah, I just think with the community budget, saying you can't do a lot with 500, you can. I mean, like I've just put a load of daffodils in, right? That was £220 to put like two huge sacks of daffodils. Wildflowers, like 200 quid a patch. They only charge for the seed, they don't charge for the labour. Things like that. I think you'd be surprised. And especially if you club 500 quid together, it's just might be a way of getting out of this quagmire.
We're going around in circles.
Yeah, this is it.
Paul, could you, Chair, would you ask Paul to clarify that there's so much of an underspend that if Rob accepts not to increase his budget on the fence and wherever else it was, that the money will be there if need be. He need not worry about it at all. Can Paul just clarify that? Then you've got just £7,500 in one go.
Yeah, the way it looks at the moment, up to the end of December, is I think there's going to be an underspend on this year's budget of around £37,000. But that is subject to there being no other calls on the contingency fund this year. There's also an underspend on the COVID-19 budget as well. So I'm reasonably confident there'll be an underspend, and that underspend, council could then decide when the accounts are closed to allocate that to Mumbles Fest or Food Festival or to any other budget.
Are we able to take a vote on that now, Paul, that if there is an underspend on the contingency, we could have 7,000 out of that?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with that.
That seems a fair way to do it.
Yeah.
If we do it in time.
Yeah.
As long as it's if there is an underspend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Carrie.
Yeah, can I just say, yes, I'm in agreement with that, but only if it's actually needed. I don't think it should just be guaranteed, even though it may be completely unnecessary because circumstances at the time mean that we could only have, I don't know, 200 people or whatever attending any event.
To be honest,
so can we say subject to circumstances that would allow us to have a big enough festival to need it?
And to be honest, we have already discussed that to an extent because, you know, I think everybody's in agreement that we're going to have to review the situation, most probably April time.
But I think it needs to be just, you know, put in as a condition.
Yeah. Okay. So, anybody else wanting to come in now?
No.
Let's vote.
Let's go and vote.
Okay. Yeah. So lost now. So we are voting on that we are keeping Rob's budget to the previous level, but that the additional money can be found from contingency if required. Is that correct?
Chair.
Yep, that's fair enough.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Chair, sorry to interrupt. Since you're trying to hit your figure, and I don't know whether you want to discuss Carrie's that additional thing that from environment, but at the moment, if that went through, you only need to save £4,300. So why not just reduce the festival amount by that, and then have your environment thing, you know, and then it gives you maximum flexibility if you do that.
People in agreement with that?
Yeah.
Anything.
People are being worn down now. This is the way to get them to vote for things.
That's the difficulty with this way.
That works, and it's fair.
Yeah. So we are voting to reduce the school's budget. Did you say, Steve?
The Flora in schools budget from 3,500 to 1,750.
Okay.
I thought we were talking about the budget for Mumbles Fest. When did the school Flora come in?
That's what Steve just brought up.
Oh, right. I thought we'd already agreed that. Sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry, Chair. You
not yet.
You temporarily out of the room, and I brought it. I put it to you, and then
you lost your connection. I think what happened.
I did.
So let's vote on that in the first place. That
Yep,
we
okay.
reduce that budget by that amount. All those in favour? Okay. So then the next vote then is that we reduce the Mumbles Fest budget by, was it £5,000, Steve?
what I was going to suggest, Chair, is after you've made this vote, you need to call an adjournment so that Paul and I can go through the figures and double check everything. That you'll leave us to come up with the amount that's needed to balance the budget deducted from the thing, and then when we come back, we'll report that figure, and obviously you can vote on the whole thing then. Do you see what I mean saying? So
yeah,
in the region of 4,200 it is the figure you're looking to say.
And it's not to reduce the budget, it's to reduce the extra we've asked for this year.
Yeah. Okay,
let's go and have a cigarette.
Let's have an adjournment then.
What I'm going to do is we suggested 10 minutes. I will put you all in the waiting room while Paul and I do our deliberations. So you go at least 10 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Nobody puts baby in the corner.
Can I just just check when we're back then? Is it literally just a case of voting and then we're done?
Yeah.
Fab. I'll put dinner on, so.
I might trust in your math, Steve, and leave you to it. I've got a 8-year-old who wants to play with me here, who I've been neglecting. So I'm going to go and play with him.
As long as we got 6 councillors to vote for it.
Cool. Well, give me a ring if you haven't. I'll be
Okay.
back. Thanks, mate.
Sorry, Paul, I have to do this individually, so it's,
Yeah, no problem.
just take a second. Almost there. Right, 2 of us in the meeting. I need to go to the loo. So
Yeah, me too.
Seconds. Hello, Paul. Hi.
Hi. Okay.
So what do we need to take off Mumbles Fest?
I think it's 4295.
Okay, so we will Mumbles Fest.
Have you got 604395 as the total budget?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
And £58.4, right? Okay, yeah. So that would be.
So tell us a new amount for the budget for the festival.
Make it make it 4,300.
Yeah.
So that would be. Two, 5, 750 minus 21,450.
21,450. And what was that? So that takes us to 57.94. Is that right?
It's the 10%, isn't it? Hang on. So that's times. Go, make it take 3,900 off.
I've lost my place now, sorry. So what's the new figure for the budget? What's the new amount?
Hang on, 3,900. 21,850.
21,850. And have you got 6,105, 57.99? That's what you want, isn't it? 57.99?
Yeah, and 600, 100. So yeah, that's good.
600, 105 I have, is that right?
Yeah, well, I'll make the contingency 54,550. So you just round it up to the nearest 50 quid, or round it down to the nearest 50 quid. And then that would give 600, 100, £57.99.
So you're going to manually reduce the contingency down?
Yeah, I'll knock £5 off it, so it balances the whole thing overall then.
Right, okay. Because you want 600, 100. As long as it's 57.99, does that matter if it's what 600, 105 or?
It doesn't, but I don't like odd figures in budgets.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't like £50 in budgets, but I think we got to go to that. But I certainly want 105 as a budget.
Okay. What happens if we took 105 off and made it a 600k budget? What would that, just in terms of tidiness, would that be happy? Would that make you even happier?
Probably, but it would take us probably below the 57.99. Might be 57.98 or something.
Okay. Shall I just try, just for fun? Okay.
Yeah, go on then.
There's 150, the burglar alarm contract. That's got to go, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So if I take that off, what does that do? Oh, no, that doesn't help. No, I didn't mean to do that. No, that's wrong. 599.
Well, take 90 quid off, really, didn't you, to get that for the 10% as well?
Oh, God. Yeah, that 10% is really annoying.
Yeah.
54. I can't get it exactly right. It's something like 54.5. And as you're right, so 600,000 doesn't give you your 57.99. So
no,
have to do. Well, that's it then, isn't it? So shall I, how long have they had? I think it was about.
Yeah, they've had about 8 minutes, I think. So they need to take 3,900 off Mumbles first, and then with the 10%, that'll give us 57.99.
Do you want me to? Do you want me to?
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just sorry. I'm just trying to think. Are you going to share your budget sheet with everyone? Do you want me to set that up, or?
I don't know if I can I? Like if I can. Yeah. How do you do that? You go onto the spread.
We can just practice now. There's only a few people waiting in the room at the moment, so let me share screen. Allow multiple. I don't want that. To allow multiple. There we are. Have you got something at the bottom that sort of says share screen? And says,
yeah.
If you click on that, the forward arrow.
Right.
It should give you sort of various windows that you've got open. And you just need to share the one that probably says Microsoft Excel. Yeah, that's come up.
Yeah, I don't think that's the right one. That's the wrong one.
All right, okay.
Stop sharing. I close down the other ones. Close down that one. That one. Yeah, that's the one. 600, 105.
Okay. I'm just submitting here and Martin in now.
Okay.
Well, just can you do a fiddle of fanfare for him? Oh, he's not back. He's
not there.
No. I was just going to double, say to him that, that you're there.
Nope, there he is.
There he is. I did a little fanfare and that was missed on you.
You. It's just that I was hiding.
So we've done it all. We've got the magic figures.
Have we hit the target?
Paul can share the screen if you want him to show everyone, and then it's just the vote, isn't it? On first of all the budget figure and then the precept figure.
Yeah.
Shall I admit everyone else then?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it should all be coming in.
So we needed to vote on reducing Mumbles Fest by 3,900.
Yeah. Okay. One, two, three, 4, 5.
Yes.
Okay.
Are we back?
Yeah, pretty much all back now. Carrie's there.
I just went to put the kettle on.
Right, so 2 votes we require. Is this correct? We need to vote to reduce Mumbles Fest by a certain amount, and then we need another vote to okay. And then another vote then to set the precept, or to
we need to agree the budget, which I'll share the screen now to show you what the budget is and what the precept is, and also to agree the items which are ticked on the budget, which are the ones that give me the authority to make payments without further referral to council. So it's things like salaries and this sort of general stuff that goes through every month.
Right. But we need to have a vote first of all, don't we, on reducing?
Yeah. So the first vote is to reduce the Mumbles Fest budget by £3,900.
Okay. Yeah. All those in favour of reducing Mumbles Fest £3,900.
Yep.
Okay, that's everybody, I think. Okay, that's carried. Then the next vote we need to have is to accept the budget.
Sorry, Chair, there's one thing I've just suddenly remembered.
Oh, no.
The vote on the environment.
We need to vote on the environment.
Because that, if you remember, you agreed to via from any contingency to replenish the funds. So it will be on that vote.
So we need to vote to authorise the environment to the Mumbles Fest if required. Is that correct?
Yeah.
From any underspend in the 2020-21 budget.
Yes. Okay. So all those in favour of that? Okay, that's all in favour. So that's okayed. Now we need... No, are you going to show the budget? And now we need to accept the budget, is it?
Yeah, can everybody see this screen I've shared?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what we're showing there is a budget of £600, 105 pence, £600,105. Although I don't like £5 on the end of a budget, so I'll reduce the contingency by a £5, which will give a budget of £600,100. So you need to vote on that, and then also vote on the precept of £57.99, which you can see is the same as it was in the current year.
Okay then. So that's what we're voting on. We're voting on the first thing. The first instance is the budget that you see in front of you. Are we prepared to accept that budget? All those in favour?
Yeah.
Vote aye. And are we all in favour of an annual precept of a Band D property of £57.99?
Yeah.
All those in favour?
Yes.
Yes.
Vote aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So is that everything for tonight?
Sorry, Chair, just the
no
the RFO authorised. So that.
Oh yes, sorry, you did say yes. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
All those in favour of that?
Sorry, could I just add one more thing? If we could add the EO resources budget to that, please.
What?
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 She has a budget of to spend on things that she needs to do her job.
So you want to add it to what Paul can authorise without coming back to
So
us?
he can just authorise that without her having to wait every time to go through a whole process of authorisation.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm all right with that.
Yeah.
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 Thanks
Okay.
very much.
Okay, Paul, Steve, is that everything you require?
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine, thanks.
Well, hey, thank
Oh,
you all.
one last thing, Martin.
Thank
One
you,
last
Stu.
thing.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Thanks, both
Martin,
of you. Very,
can we
very
now
much.
vote on me having a beer tonight?
Yeah, you can have as many beers as you bloody like. I tell you, like, you know.
I would recommend the Pembrokeshire Murders on ITV.
Yes, I know. I'd like
Yeah,
to see it.
I'll be watching that as well.
Definitely, I want to watch that. It's got Keith Allison, who
Yeah.
I
Yes.
worked
See you
on
guys.
the tracker.
Thank you all for your time and thank you all for your input.
Bye.
Thank you all, people. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye bye. Thank you all. Bye bye.